The first thing I like to start off with most of these episodes is
Mm.
something related to inspiration. I've heard you talk about this before, but what comes to mind when I say that word?
Change that you're looking to create in your life is associated to the change in which you hold. And yes, people talk about identity change, and that's a big part of it, right? But ultimately, transformation is about result. It's about a new result in your life, any area of your life. It could be in your business, it could be in your health, it could be in your relationship, it could be in your finances, it could be in your physical body. But the ability to be able to transform something is to change something holistically into a new reality. And at the center of that is you.
As so many coaches, including me, myself, by the way, we like pick apart certain things that we want to see better at in our athlete, in our client, whatever it may be. But I love your approach, which is like, let's get to the root of who you really are. That's what it seems like to me. Let's get to the root of who and what you really are and what
Yeah.
you're here to do.
Yeah. Well, that's what becomes available.
Yeah.
The big part of that is that it's not available. Your version of what you think you want to be, the true potentiality of who you are is not actually available in your current vantage point. And part of the reason why the holistic approach and the holistic work, part of the reason why I take people to Everest and I take people to Haleakala and I take people to Egypt and I do fire walks every single month is because there's a work that's required in order for you to get to the essence of who you are. There's a deconstruction of the identity. There's a letting go and an openness that has to take place. There's a surrendering. And in the surrendering, you have access to a greater wisdom. Going back to transformational coaching, this is the context to the conversation of business, to the conversation of being an athlete, to the conversation of relationship and health. That's the context. It's like you got to understand if you want to be the best athlete, if you want to be the best husband, if you want to be the best business owner, if you want to be the best facilitator, there's an unwinding of your story and of your identity holistically that you have to get to. And here's the truth about it. You might find that when you unwind, you actually don't want to be the best athlete. You might find that you don't want to be you might find that that thing that you thought you wanted was actually something else. And it's that those pivots that actually arrive to this transformational outcome of like, oh, I thought it was this, right? It's the caterpillar to the butterfly. I thought it was this. I thought it was a caterpillar. And all along, I've been a butterfly, right?
Yeah, I love that.
I'm doing this. Everest Base Camp was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It was a 12-day hike, 90 miles, and 2 days into it, three-quarters of the second day, I was completely done at my limit. And not because I was like, not because it was like, oh, this is really hard hike. It's like, no, the altitude. Your body doesn't have the oxygen resource to be able to function. So every single step was like, oh, bro, like I look up at like 15 steps and be like, oh my God, 15 steps. And I did that for 50 miles, one step at a time, inching my way to this thing. But it changed me, not in the way that I think, but in the way that I am, because it was in my body holistically that I can do the hardest things I've ever done and keep on going. Not that I know that, I knew that I could do that, but I was doing it, and neurologically, the repetition of doing that over time shifted. And my identity to who was walking shifted. I was no longer walking from the perspective of this is the hardest thing I've ever done. I had to walk from a new perspective in order to get through it. And that shifted the whole thing, right? To the point that when I came back and I got back home, I was like, oh, it's been, this is going into the third week since I've been back. And it was 2 weeks of just like, what do I even want anymore? Like, what is
Wow.
my life even about anymore? Because I've shifted so much. Like, some people run towards the sound of danger. I've always prided myself as someone who is responsive in that way, that when something shows up, that I move towards it and I don't move away. Right. Um,
It's like a
so
big
yeah,
wave surfer. It reminds me of a Laird Hamilton, right? Those big waves, like he just goes through it, through the
yes,
fear. It
yes.
is the fear of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the work in general. And a lot of people, I think a lot of people have been okay and conditioned, right? It's not everybody's responsibility. And the truth about it is that this conversation is not for everyone. This conversation is someone who is inspired. This is someone who is on the threshold of like, oh, there's something greater for me in my life. This is for someone who's into a greater awakening, a greater conscious. They already have a point of access and they're trying to actually embody it. They're trying to bring what they know into physical form and to live it into physical form. Right. This is not for someone who is not awake yet. This is someone who is awake. They understand that there's greater possibility for their life, and what they're looking to do is to bring it to fruition into their hands, into their physical reality, so that they can live their vision out loud. Right. But one of the thresholds is about moving towards those things that present fear or present doubt or are presented as daunting. Right. Because a lot of times those thresholds are the portals that open you up to what it is that you're truly capable of, but
Yeah.
not in the ways in which you think. A lot of times people think, well, is it like working out? Like if I lift heavier that I get stronger? Yeah, kinda. Until you hit a point where none of it matters.
Yeah.
That it's not about the resistance and it's not about you. It's about a greater understanding of what is. And then from that understanding, recalibrating and repositioning your life in a way that is in service of, in expression of. The positioning, the focal point changes. My life story versus the truth. And where my truth versus the truth, and then where am I accessing from, right? Like we talked about a lot about like this the tethered soul, right? This idea of like, what am I tied to energetically? Am I tied to my story or am I tied to the truth? Right? And it's not something that you learn by from knowing. It's something that you work through. So again, this is why the morning meditations, this is why the monthly fire walks, this is why the coaching program, this is why the trips to Hawaii, the trips to Egypt, the trips to Haleakala, the trips to Everest. These are why these things is because they become the process for people to be able to hold a greater capacity physically in their life, but also simultaneously, because it's two part. In order to get access to that greater capacity, they have to work through everything that's interfering, their self-identity, their interpretation of self. And as they work through that, they get access to that resource, but then that resource gets translated into their physical being. So that, and there's a bigger conversation here when it comes to influence, especially people who are leaders. Influence comes is not it's not about how many likes and comments that you have, okay? Or how many followers you have. Influence is about who you are energetically and what shows up when you walk into a room, and that people can feel you energetically because of what you hold, because of what you do and what you're doing. How you live matters. Is that you're a living example of your message. You're a living example of your truth, and everywhere you go, before anything you say, everybody knows it.
Going, I've heard you talk about heaven on earth too, like being, I want to let you talk about this, but ascending into that place of like shedding the old story, shedding even, and on a bigger level, shedding hate, shedding war, getting rid of all that. That's ascending out of that. It's kind of like evolving past
Yeah, yeah,
all that stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That is ascension is.
And talk about it from a transformational coach point of view from the future. Like what is the future transformative coach? What is that person doing differently than the transformative coach of now?
People got to understand from a business perspective, transformation is like a currency.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the highest value exchange that you can offer from a business perspective. Just like money is a currency, transformation is a currency. Um, and what will understand at some point is that there is no greater value than transformation when it comes to the hierarchy of value in business. And the direction, if you look at any industry leader, anybody who's doing amazing stuff in their industry, it's because they understand this fact, right? They understand that what it is that they're doing is not about the market's position. It's about the transformation that it provides to their clientele. So think about luxury brands as an example. Rolls Royce, okay? It's a great example. Okay, they're industry leader. They're great at what they do. Are they selling cars? Yes, they're selling cars. But ultimately, if you look at their marketing, what they're selling is there's an identity shift that they're selling.
Yeah.
Look at Nike. as an example, industry leader. What are they selling? Are they selling clothing? They're selling shoes. Yeah, sure, they're selling those things. But ultimately, if you look at any of their marketing, they're selling the transformative identity. What happens? Just do it is about what happens when you put on those clothes. The Be Like Mike campaign, which is 80s, that's dating us, right? But that's about a new identity shift. Like when I put on the shoes, is it the shoes? I put on the shoes and I become somebody else. It's
Sure.
identity shift. Okay.
Yep.
If I think about it, this goes on and on. Like you name any industry leader and you'll see their position. I just saw a recent one for Chevy trucks. Okay, Chevy trucks. It's not about the truck. It's about the who the person is that drives the truck. Are you a person that, they had this whole campaign. Are you a person that shows up when the other people don't show up? Are you the person that like it's all these things? Even the Marines. It's not something, a Marine is not something that you get enlisted to. It's someone you become. Okay, all industry leaders understands that transformation is a currency. So part of where this whole thing is going is that it's going towards transformation. And if you don't understand that, you will be one of these people that is left behind, right? If you don't position on transformation and if you can't deliver on transformation, you will be left behind in business, period. Um, so it's
Yeah.
important to understand the dynamics of what that means holistically for you, especially as a coach, which is really like a solopreneur. When you get this, people, like your whole life changes. When you get that the priority of your brand is who you show up as every single day, that you get paid to juice fast. I get paid to go to Everest. I get paid to host firewalks. I get paid. You got to understand that this is what you get paid for if this is the position that you're going to take. And if you're not actually doing that, if you're not living in your own transformation and pushing your envelope of what is real, what's not real, who you are, what your greatest resource is, how do you hold space, how do you construct, how do you build a greater system to fulfill in people's lives? If you're not living that, then the rest of it is irrelevant. It doesn't matter what you know. It's about who you are and how your business and your life is structured around that. Yeah, bro.
Bucky, you're awesome, bro. I appreciate you so much. Don't go anywhere. For everyone else, stay inspired, everybody. Appreciate you guys.
You.
You.